Okay. Whenever we start, maybe in the middle of here, perhaps the bottom third of the page, Zion, the word starts, the line begins with Einay Etzem Hadover. Ve'einay Etzem Hadover. And we spent the whole hour last time try to identify the principle of Ze versus K, Koi. Remember that? Do we have a sense? Do we understand what the principle is? All right.
You said that Ze is something that's it's not something comparable, but it's the thing itself. Like when you see the person, you see his face, you don't have to say, I can see he is, it looks like it's him, but rather you see that this is him. You don't say, as opposed to you see somebody from the back, so then you only see certain details that you might be able to compare to who you remember in your mind.
Okay. So that was what we call a mushal. Closer to home, closer to the point, what is this about? What's so important about Ze and Koi?
Revealed. It's revealed. You see it about something Ze, it's showing that it's revealed to the person.
We pointed out, I don't really expect that you would repeat this, but I hope you understand this. Pointed out that there was a fundamental difference in the process of creation of everything in the world and the human being. Everything was created in lumps, a whole species, a whole broad idea which developed into various parts. Whereas the Odom, human being, was created individually. What does this mean in real terms? Worldliness, and please stop me if you don't follow what I'm saying, is not Ze, it's all Koi. There's nothing in the world that is true in and of itself. For example, a table stands. It stands on its own? No, there's this leg that supports it, this leg that supports it, this leg that supports it. It's also precarious. Huh? Precarious? Yeah. Precarious means shaky, not solid, not definite. You pointed out many times one very obvious and very significant difference between the human being and the animal, in that the animal stands on 4 and the human being stands on 2. And we point out what's the difference. Standing on 4 means that it has to support itself on the ground, or from every angle, just like the table has to support its own. It doesn't have its own stance. A human being stands on his own. He happens to be on the ground, but he stands because he stands. not because the ground holds him up. Everybody understands this?
Yeah, but there are some tables that like only.
One second, do you understand this? Yeah, I don't want to go on. You understand the difference?
Just explain, like, the person walks into
I'm sorry?
because of seichel, right? Person walks into it because of seichel, he has seichel.
Okay, we're talking about why that is a separate, but the fact is that a person stands on his own because he stands. That is not being supported. Whereas everything else stands because it's actually leaning from every angle for support. Doesn't have the element of standing on its own. Do we see that? You understand that? Yes, go ahead. It's
Okay.
yours.
No, but there are some tables that like stand. There are some tables that only stand on two legs.
No, there aren't. The two legs are extended into four. They stand on two legs, and the bottom, the two legs broaden out to the
No,
entire
I'm
width
thinking
of the
about,
table.
No, I was thinking about like there's tables that are just like round, like things, like round legs.
That's right. On one leg, right? It's two legs, one leg.
Right, even one leg, right?
That's right. So then, it is not really standing. It's just balanced by the weight of the table from all sides. It's not standing up. A human being stands off balance. He holds himself up. I think it's quite obvious, and it's important to understand this. Why is it important to understand? Because it's an important muscle for many, many things. And then we go to the next step. As we're going to learn, I'm going to point out, where is this element come to the human being from? How come the human being has this element? Like you said, he has seichel. How come the human being has this element and no other creature in the world has this element? To me?
The ruach, the neshama.
But they all have ruach. They all live.
Try neshama.
Okay, they have a nefesh. What's the difference between, it's true, but what is the difference between that nefesh and this nefesh? So this nefesh has this element and that one doesn't.
I guess it just depends on the dvaraya.
On the what?
Creates it.
I'm sorry?
Depends on the dvaraya that creates it. Maybe.
The difference is that the human being is aware of Hashem. No other creature is aware of Hashem in that way. In other words, a human being stands because he's aware of Hashem. It's like Hashem holding him up. There's a reality. There's a godly reality in his mind. Every animal depends on the world. It doesn't have a godly reality. It has a worldly reality. Therefore, it has to be leaning on the world. A human being is like independent in the world. Okay? Therefore, the human being is called Zeh. And therefore, as we're going to see, and this is, we preempt a little bit, therefore, Elokus, only Elokus can be referred to as Zeh. Because only Elokus has this type of absolute reality. No other thing in existence and in the world. So it says, Zeh hayem tchilas ma'asecha, means that there should be gilui Elokus in the world. And that is the influence Zeh. Okay, now we go inside.
So, sorry, the human being is, we say it's called Zeh because is created in a way of Zeh that it has a individual real existence, not just like as a general species, and also because he relates to a real intrinsic reality.
One is dependent on the other. The reason that he is independent of the world is because he relates to its intrinsic reality, to the godly reality. But I'm jumping the gun with this a little bit. Just wanted to have an idea of what we're talking about. So I'm spending time on Zeh and Koy. What's so significant about it?
We're saying what's the Gilei, like creation.
Gilei Lakus.
Let's create the world.
No. Not create the world.
In the world.
In the world, there should be Gilei Lakus.
Adam.
As a result, as we're going to see, as a result of Avodas Yisrael, there's Gilei Lakus, there is union from Zeh in the world. And you can see a Lakus in the world. That's the whole, that's the function and the purpose of Am Yisrael. Okay. So we're starting on the line that begins with the words "Ve'enoi etzem hadover." You have that? Rag hadmus bilvad meyeser ho'etz. Koi is a comparative statement. Comparative compares one thing to another. Koi, it's like this. And therefore, the message in Koi is that we're not talking about the Etzem Hadover. We're talking something that is akin, that is similar to it. Admus. Ukiodua. And as we also know, Sheyesh Beis Madregus. That there are two distinct Madregus, which are Tselem Udmus.
So it's like the two levels of like.
I'm sorry?
Is this going to show on the difference between Kai and Zeh? Is this like another example of like the difference between Kai and Zeh?
But this is going to explain Kohen and Zeh.
Oh, there's a difference too.
Right. Because we said that, okay. Koi is not the Etzem of the Sedoni Dmus, because we know that there are two Madregas. One is called Tselem, and one is called Dmus. Like when Hashem created Odom Horishin, what did it say? Nasa Odom, B'Tzalmeinu, Kid Museinu. So there are two distinct aspects. B'Tzalmeinu, which is Tselem, Kid Museinu, which is Dmus. What is the difference and what is it referring to? The Tselem, Hu Tzura Atzmius. Tselem, that refers to Tzura Atzmius, a Tzura that is essential. What means it's essential? So the Rebbe explains, it means, V'hainu, it means, Shehat Etzem Nitztayer B'tziyur Zeh. That the Etzem, the very essence, is Nitztayer, is formed b'tziyur zeh in this tziyur. One more line and we'll discuss it. Ukmoi tselem ha'odom, as for example, tselem ha'odom, shehu atzmius tzuras ha'odom, which is the essence of tzuras ha'odom, of the tzura of the person. Tziyur, formed. Say again? That's a mitzvah b'tziyur zeh. I'll explain to you. Like we spoke about before, a table can have 4 legs, can have 2 legs, can have 1 leg. The primary object of a table is that it should be able to hold up a board. Makes no difference how it holds up the board. It could have no legs. It can be just attached to 2 ends of a wall, and then like in a restaurant, a little extension, right? So it's also a table. Therefore, this form that we're talking about does not describe, does not represent an essential concept of a table. You can make a table in any which way. There's no essential way to make a table. As long as there's a board, then you can put things on it. Now, animals, every animal has its own form. As we said before, animals are essentially representing the species animal. Every animal has this similarity, they're all animals. A cat, a dog, a tiger, and a leopard. They're all animals. And they all look very different from each other. There's no room what an animal should look like. Huh?
So there's no room for what?
No rule of what an animal should look like. All kinds of appearances, of animalistic appearances, which are not representing, please listen, representing the concept of animal. No tzio that represents a concept of an animal. There are hundreds and thousands of different creatures, crawling things, flying things. They're all animals. None of them represent the concept of an animal. Okay, that's that. Then there is a human being. Now, the human being, also, every human being looks different. In Patzofeim, so their face are slightly different. Nonetheless, there's one important element. A human being stands on 2 legs, has a body from which 2 arms extrude and a head on top. That is universally true. Makes a difference what it looks like. That actually is the human form. Not this human form or that human form. This is the human form.
Birds also.
Huh?
Birds also have very similar forms to man. Also, they
Birds?
have 2 feet. And they have wings. And
No, there are birds with 4 legs and 4 above, but not at all. No, there are all kinds of different. Look in the Chumash. Grasshoppers are also flying. There are all kinds of different creatures in every denomination, whether it's fowl, fish, or dryland animals.
So what makes the chicken stand up?
The fact that the chickens, you have the problem, it stands on 2 because it's balanced. Just like the table can stand on 1 leg because it's balanced. The human being does not stand by balance. He is holding himself.
No.
You understand? Not?
No, I get that.
I'm sorry, you don't?
I don't understand it now.
You don't understand it now? Okay. See this book?
Yeah. It's pretty good.
Okay?
Yeah.
How am I holding it?
You're balancing it.
I'm balancing it. That's how every creature stands, whether they stand on four or they stand on two in the middle. Okay?
Take it as a fact.
Huh?
Take it as a fact because I don't know what's in the chicken's head.
Okay. So then we'll actually ask the chicken. Next time you ask the chicken, ask them. A human being has what's called a tzura atzmis, a tzura that describes a human being exclusively. And there's no deviation in that. There's deviation in different form, different body build, one bigger, one smaller, one rounded, one muscular, whatever makes a difference. And the form of the face can be different. But this is what a human being looks like. What?
All dry animals, no.
What?
Isn't all dry animals have their heads down? Like on four legs?
A cockroach is also a dry animal.
It's not an insect.
What? Insect. I'm saying it's all part of they're also animals. You don't go to yeshiva. Maybe they do, but they're not welcome. You don't pay tuition.
So then you're counting also the birds. So birds are
Yeah.
included.
Yeah, that's right. I'm saying there is not what's called a tzura atzmis. This is what we spoke about the other day. They're created by species. Within each species, there are all kinds of different forms. A human being has a tselem, which means, like, look inside now you'll see that there is no repetition here. The tselem hu tzuro atzmis. Tselem is referring to tzuro atzmis, an essential form, not a form that reminds you of it, but a form that is essentially it. V'hainu, meaning to say, sheho etzem nitztayer b'tzura zu. The very essence itself presents itself in this form. In other words, a human being looks whatever he looks like. These are not two separate things, that there is a human being and he looks like this. He could have looked any other way. He presents himself this way, that's not true. The way he looks and what he is one and the same thing. This is what he is supposed to look like, because this is what he is. This is called a tzura atzmis. Even though this is a tzura, a tziyur, an external form, this external form is representative of what the essence itself is.
So why do people look different then?
Why are people different?
It's all same essence, so why do people look different?
There are differences. Okay, you didn't say yourself, that's not a pertinent question here. Just quickly, their differences are on functional level. Different seichel, different feelings, but by definition, what a human being is, there's no difference. Okay? For example, a human being, a hand has 5 fingers. Sometimes by some kind of a deformity, he has only 4 fingers. That's a deformity in the human being. It's not another way of human. He's missing something. It's a deformity. Because there's the essential tziyur of a human being, and this is what it is. Okay, I think it's clear.
We would not say the same thing about a sheep, for example.
A sheep?
A sheep that has some deformity.
No. Yeah, a sheep, yes, but a sheep, but not the animal world. A sheep is not an exclusive creature. sheep and a goat and a cow and a deer, they're all kosher animals. They're all the same family. Animals, essentially. Human being is in a category all by himself. There is nothing similar to him. This is what's called the Tzura Atzmis, and it's called Tselem. Tselem means that which, a form that is that is representative of what the essence is. That's why he has this form, because that's what the essence is.
I understand that.
You do it, I'm sorry.
I understand that a person
Yeah.
is showing his etzem how it looks. I didn't understand how he proved it that everyone else doesn't have. They're not showing who they are. I mean, in behemoths. So they also have it. I'm saying.
Not proving anything. I'm asking you your own thinking. Is a dog an animal?
Is a dog an animal? Yes.
Is a cat an animal?
Yeah.
Is a monkey an animal?
Yeah.
Do they have different forms?
Yeah. Monkey looks different than dog.
Looks different. Okay, but it's still an animal, right? Even though it looks completely different. So which one is really an animal? Which one is just a make-believe animal?
Okay. They don't have just. Okay. They don't have their own way of looking. Okay. Okay.
Okay? Ukmei tselem ha'odom. I'm repeating this line. Ukmei tselem ha'odom. As for example, tselem ha'odom. Shu atzmius tzuras ha'odom. This is the etzem, the essence, tzura of the person. This is not one way of representing a person. This is the only way to represent the person. This is the person. Even though he can vary from other people in certain aspects. But they're all exactly the same in terms of the tselem aspect. The moose can vary, but the tselem is exactly the same. Ma she'en kein hadmus, which in contrast to the term dmus, hu she'en boy ho'etzem. The moose is that which doesn't, it's similar, it represents it, but ein boy ho'etzem. It does not possess the etzem. Kiyim mare udmus mimeno. It is only an appearance and a similarity to it, but not it. As for example, when a person is seen in a mirror, hanikra spiegel, where in this mirror there is not the etzem of the person at all. Kim hadmus lavad. Only the dmus, only the similarity. He looks like him, but it's not him. Behagam shekol, although shekol chelkei proti ha'odam, that all parts, details of the person, nirim behamarek moishehei, they can be seen in the mara, in the mirror, exactly as they are. Yet still, it looks exactly like the person. Still, kol zehu b'bchinas dmus lavad. This is still anything that you see in the mirror, no matter how exact it is only the dmus, it's only representation, only the similarity. Shehu rak mareho etzem, which means it's only the appearance of the etzem, v'loi ho etzem, but nothing of the etzem itself. This is the pshat, tzelem and dmus. Huh?
Can you go further?
Am I going to be further? Yes.
I
Yeah.
was thinking that, wait, what is it saying here? Looking into the mirror is just isn't it called the same thing?
I'm sorry?
I'm not saying it's the same thing. That's why it's not showing. You see some head and
Yeah, but
two
it's,
feet.
but, that's right. You know the story of the king who contracted 4 artists. It's a famous story. He built a new palace, and in the palace he had a very special reception room, and he wanted that this room should be decorated in a very special way. So he contracted 3 world-class artists, and he commissioned each one of them to paint one of the walls. Promising a very hefty reward for the winner. So they immediately set to work and started working on their walls. One started, the other thing, the third started, the fourth one is nowhere to be seen. And they're all wondering, what is he thinking? You know, he's not going to do what the king commissioned him to do. Anyway, he's not around. Time moves on. And they're almost finished with their design, and he is not here. Finally, on the very last day of the contract, they were all finished. He comes in with a huge mirror and puts up the mirror covers the entire wall that he is commissioned to paint. Look in this mirror, you see all the other views. Right? Ingenious idea. So the king comes in and he starts looking, what's going on over here? He's very impressed. Walks over to the one wall, studies it, and he hangs up on the wall a bag of gold. Goes to the second one, studies it, is impressed, whatever, more or less, hangs up another bag of gold. Goes to the third, he hangs up another bag of gold. The fourth, he doesn't hang up anything. So this artist says to him, Your Majesty, what about me? So he says, You have all 3 bags. Look at you on your wall. They're all 3 are hanging on your wall. Huh?
It's not it, but it looks like it.
Yeah.
So,
That means it doesn't have the real thing. It's only an appearance. It looks like something, but it's not the real thing. That's the difference between tzelem and dmus.
Tzelem is the real thing.
I'm sorry?
Tzelem is the real thing.
The real thing? In the tzelem is contained the whole etzem. In the dmus is only reminiscent, a reminder of the etzem.
Doesn't dmus have everything, but you only see half of it? You can only see like a certain amount.
You mean you can only see one side? Well, maybe. The truth is that if you have two mirrors, you can see all sides. Did you ever take a haircut? What does the barber do when he finishes your back? Wants you to approve of it. What does he do? He puts a mirror in the back. And you look at the same mirror. And now you see the back. Yep. So this is like, so to speak, explaining the moshel of Tzura and Tzelem and the Mus. So the similar inyan, and that is the whole point here, is to understand how this inyan is Lamayla. Mevchina Zo u'Malchus. Where are these two inyanim present? In the aspect of Zo and Malchus. Zo, the word Zo stands for what? Zeir Ampin. And Malchus. Zeir Ampin, Zeir means small, which means a small face or the small method. Then there is Arich Ampin. Arich Ampin, that's in Kesed, that's higher than Atzilus. So, in Zeir Ampin, there are all the midas, all the godly qualities are in Zeir Ampin. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, and even Chochmah, Bina, Vadas are also really included in Zeir Ampin. And then there is Malchus. Malchus, as we discussed a little bit the other day, Malchus is the last of the spheres. And Malchus is an interesting thing. This is like the fourth mirror, the fourth wall. Malchus does not possess any of its own qualities, but it actually represents and reflects all the other qualities. It contains, it internalizes all the other qualities. This is Zo and Malchus.
What was the second justice?
Huh?
What was the second justice when you said
Anpin.
Anpin?
Anpin is either called faces or pen. A pen means a variation. Oifen comes from word oifen. Bo'oifen hazeh, bo'oifen zeh.
Options?
Huh?
Option, way.
Yeah, way or option. Okay, are you with me? And as it says in the Zohar, the tzelem b'dechura u'dmus b'nukva. Zo and Malchus are also described, are also called Zohar and Nekeva. The Zo is a Zohar, like the Mashpia, because it has everything, all the koiches. And Malchus is the recipient that receives from Zo, which is the Nukva, the Nekeva, Zohar and Nekeva. The Zo hu bechinas Tzela. Zo is the aspect of Tzela. Bechinas Tzuro Atzmis. Tzela means that the Zo has this element of Tzura Atzmis. It actually has, this Tzura of Zo is not just a Tzura, just a form. It's a form that actually contains the real thing, the real essence. It is a form because it's Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, it has 6 midas and has three moichin, it has all kinds of different functions, but it also contains the etzem itself. We will see in a moment to explain it. Lefi, okay, these following three words are very important for us to understand. Lefi, because shemekabel hamoichin meyavo atzmon.
Say again?
Let me read the words again. Lefi, because shemekabel hamoichin, it receives the moichin. I'll explain everything in a moment. Just first get the words. Shemekabel hamoichin. Moichin means the brain element. Me'avo atzmon. From avo themselves. Avo. What's avo? Avo in the Rosh Hashanah is avo'im. Which means chokhmah and bina. Avo'im, avo is chokhmah and bina. So we have a lot to discuss over here in these few words. First of all, we have to discuss this term, moichin. This is something new over here. What is the moichin? What's all of a sudden moichin? What is it talking about? The word moichin is related to the word moyach, the brain. Now, the brain contains, like in a human being, the chokhmah and bina v'das, the powers of the mind is in the brain. In other words, the wisdom and all that. But the word moichin, although definitely that is a major aspect, that it contains the higher koiches, chokhmah, bina v'das. But the word moichin, in a more general sense, means the following. Going back to what we discussed early today and the last year, that a human being is different than all other creatures. All other creatures do not have a specific presence of their own. They're part of a species. A human being has a specific presence of his own. And the reason that I would say he has a specific presence of his own, because he is directly aware of Hashem. He's a real presence. He's independent of everything. He's just an entity unto himself. This awareness, okay, step back. Okay, see, he's aware of Hashem. So why does that make him so categorically different than all other creatures? He knows that. So therefore what? That puts him in a different category. If you recall throughout like discussing many times, for years, I'm pointing all the time, that the world without the human being has no significance whatsoever. Put one human being in it, all of a sudden you have a real world. How is that makes it? Because he knows of Hashem, therefore he's so privileged, he's so important. What's the difference? Okay? Please listen carefully. The difference is this. And again, I'm going to step up and give us a little bit of a broader mushal for this, which also I think we discussed here. We once discussed the concept of tznius. Remember this? No? A person walks around garmented, covered, clothes all over his body, except for his head. All animals, they just walk around the way they are. Why is a human being cover his whole body? What's so terrible about his body? And the explanation is, we would like you to pay attention to this. The explanation is, just as somebody mentioned here, all the animals, the head and the tail and the rest of the body are on the same level. There's not one thing more important than the other. Not one thing that represents the whole entity. On the contrary, the head serves the belly. The belly needs to eat, so the head goes around looking, what can I eat? It's all one thing. The human being is completely different. The human being is primarily, what primarily means? First and foremost, what's the most important thing in a human being that represents a human being? Is his brain. That's what a human being is. Everything else is to serve the brain. Everything else is in order to provide for the brain the ability to be here in this world and to function. But primarily, this is what he is. If the human being should uncover his body, walk around uncovered, then he is missing the whole point. It's like the body and the brain are on the same, and the head are in the same level. Each thing functions independently. Like by a horse, each thing functions independently. Like I mentioned many times, that a horse, a half hour after it's dropped, after it gets born, it jumps around. It jumps around because its brain told it to jump around. No, because it has legs, so it jumps around. It's not coordinated, there's no purpose in this jumping around. A human being does not know, cannot act like this. A human being acts only by the direction and control and focus and purpose of the brain. This is why it takes a human being, a child, a year and a half, 2 years to learn how to walk, because he has to develop his intellect first to understand what walking is. He can't walk just like that, like a horse. He has to know what he's doing. He has to make a decision. I want to walk. So human being, everything is first and foremost contained in his mind. And everything follows through. This is why we cover the whole body, in order to point out, you want to see the human being, this is the human being. Everything else is serving this. If I should uncover it, that means I would say that this and this is of the same value. They are independent of each other. That's not what a human being is, that's animal. You understand? The body does not experience anything but for what the brain tells it to experience. If you uncover it, let it experience things independently of the brain, that's animalistic, that's not human. Okay? Therefore, what really sets a human being apart from everything else? It is the moichin element. That the whole human being, that he starts from the moyach. not from the foot. And there is no independence to the foot or the hand or the mouth for that matter. It is the moyach that provides for everything else. This structure, starting from moichin and going down, this is the real creation. This is a real creation.
Wait,
Huh?
animals also have a brain.
Yeah, but they're not controlled by the brain. They have a brain which serves to give chayas to the body. It's not that the body serves the brain. Sure, they have everything. The union from moichin, that moichin is, this is the primary presence, and everything else is bottled to the moichin, and serves the moichin, and is a representative of what the moichin tells it to be. This is what's called a real creation. Real creation means because it has a real function, focused, a real purpose, defined by the brain. Something that exists by virtue of reaction. And this is what the world, the scientists, they say everything is evolved by cause and effect. So they lose the whole point of a brain. It's just reactive. There's no real creation, real world. There's nothing real. Real is when it is focused and it's intended. It doesn't happen by accident. That is what represents the godly element in the world. A real, purposeful presence. Okay? Do I have you all with me in this?
No.
No? I don't have you with me?
Why is he called a creation?
Huh?
For Hashem, Hashem wants this. I'm trying to see why is he called a real creation?
Real creation means that everything that is contained in this creation, all details, are all with a single purpose. I mean, this is it. Zeh, like we said, this is a real thing. Everything is focused and contained in one direction, in one purpose. If each thing acts independently of everything else, it's not a creation. It's just there's feet, there's hands, there's a mouth, there are eyes. They have nothing to do with this. It's not one creature. It's 613 different little pieces. It's not a real creation. Real creation is something that's focused.
So why are they called creatures then?
What?
Are they not creation? Are the animals not part of creation?
That's what I said. There is creations and the real creation. The real creation is the Odom. He is the purpose of the creation. Everything else is secondary. So the moichin element in everything, that is the real thing. And only that which has a moichin element, or the moichin is primary, only that is a real creation. Now, in the Lakus, in the real terms, in Kedusha, everything is really based on Moichin, starts from Moichin. But there are different levels of Moichin. This is what we are trying to explain over here. There is Zoh and Malchus. There is the Moichin element of Zoh, and there is the Moichin element of Malchus. Both of these madreges are real godly levels. And therefore they really have the union of Moichin. Let's discuss this briefly. But this is just briefly because we'll go back to it. You learned in Tanya that a person has midas, has chesed, gvura, tiferes, ava, yira, and so forth, and rachamim, all 7 different midas. And then the Alter Rebbe explains that all the midas originate in the moichin. Midas that do not originate in the moichin, that act independently, are not real midas. They don't have a focus. They're reactive.
Midas
Hmm?
were you saying midas are not real?
When they don't act according to the moichin, according to the directive of moichin. Did you ever hear the expression, a person eating seafood? What does it mean?
Seafood diet.
A seafood diet? What's seafood diet?
Very seasoned.
Whatever you see. It's not moichin. That's not called eating. Of course he's eating. Huh?
I thought you meant seafood, not like the
I don't hear.
fish and stuff.
I can hear.
I thought you meant seafood. I thought when you said seafood diet, I thought you meant like the fish and stuff.
Yeah, that's a play on the word.
I don't know.
Okay, the expression seafood means that he is not focused, he is not in control, he does not direct what he's doing. He sees it, he eats it. And what does that imply? What does it tell? He's not really acting like a human being in a controlled fashion. A human being, when he eats because his brain tells him to eat this, and to eat this. Doesn't eat it because it's there. He eats it because that's what his brain tells him to eat. When he eats seafood, because he sees it, then there is what's missing. The moichin element is missing. And therefore he's missing the human element. The real thing, what a human being stands for, he's missing. He's missing the human element.
Doesn't the animal also have moichin?
I explained before, the moichin in the animal serves the body. He wants to, the moichin looks for, detects where can I find the food. Smells and so forth. Finds ways to get it. But not that the moichin tells him, don't eat this, eat this. The moichin is not in control at all. Never see an animal contemplate, is this the right thing to do? Is it the right thing to do right now? Should I eat now, or should I bench some first, or should I take a walk first?
Giving them too much food, they eat too much fish.
There is in Halach, it talks about ongestopter endik. A turkey. A turkey can be ongestopt. They sit there, they want to have a fat turkey, so they put food into its mouth. And the turkey just eats whatever you put. And eats to a point where it can't really live that way because it's over. It went beyond its limit to digest all the food. But in the meantime, it processed all the food and made it into turkey meat and made it, fat, whatever it is, and then you take and shecht it and you have the meat. That's how they use it, It's a halacha shaila whether it's allowed or not, because the turkey becomes in a sakona because he can really live, can really survive this type of feed. Huh?
It might be treif.
And it's a shaila whether it's treif or not.
I have a question on the words. Like the words that I'm not sure if you're gonna say it for next time or not. But Francis said that like on his level, the zone level of Surah Asmas. Why? Because it receives from the Moichin of like Ava'im. Now, so why should it be the Etzem then? If like Ava'im is the Etzem, and now Zah is receiving from it, so why is Zah the Etzem? If it gets...
Okay. All that, right now I stopped just to explain the word Moichin. So I understand what this is all about. What is Moichin all of a sudden come into this? And then we'll explain the difference between the Moichin of Zoh and the Moichin of Malchus, and so forth. Okay?
Yeah, and also another question also based on that question that also like we are also we are a part of Hashem, but how can we be a part of Hashem if we are receiving from Hashem also? So that's another question.
If you're receiving from Hashem, so how can we? Why can't we be
Why
part
do we
of?
call the finance? Actually, never mind. No, like, don't we say that we are a part of Hashem?
Listen, let me give you suggest. Yeah, you can ask anything you want. Asking should be exclusively for the purpose of clarifying what's being discussed. If we begin to ask questions from an unrelated view, you can ask. You're allowed to ask if it bothers you. But it will certainly prevent you from understanding what we're learning, because you're all over. You're not focused with the moichin, so to speak. Moichin is focused in one thing. I mean, I've had a lot of different Talmidim, and I always explain to Talmidim, asking a kasha, after you learn and you understand everything, you can ask anything you want. You ask, how come it says this? But while you're trying to understand the point, stay to the point. That way, you'll understand the point. Once you understand the point, even if you have questions on it, it's not the worst thing. You got the real thing. Very important to learn how to focus on the point that's been discussed. There's a story of a Rambam. The Rambam in his days had a big debate with the scholars of the king's court. They said that you can take an animal and train it to become like a human being. And the Rambam says, impossible. An animal is an animal, a human being is a human being. There is no transgender over there. So the king was the sultan, whatever, was very, very intrigued by this question. So he challenged them. And he said to the others, to the scholars, the opposition to the Rambam, says, look, you claim that it's possible. Rambam says it's not possible. You claim it's possible. Prove it. So they took up the challenge. And a whole year they were training a cat. They trained a cat that it should walk, kind of on the hinder legs or on both legs, but one thing, carry plates of food in a very even manner and serve it to the table. And it became very adept at this, and was really trained. So then the appointed day came, and the king made a big feast. All the big dignitaries were there. And then everybody was settled in and so forth. The king says, no, now it's your turn to prove your point. So they brought out the cat. They put a little apron on it. And the cat started serving these plates. And it's amazing. He serves the plates and gives a little bow. It's really an amazing thing. So they were very triumphant. Triumphant. They felt victorious. They felt that they. So then the king is also very spoiled. So he turns to the Rambam. No, Rabbi, what do you say about that? Says, very impressive. Since the Rambam didn't know how they're going to prove it, so the Rambam says, I need a few moments. I need to work on the moments. So the Rambam goes away. He comes back, whatever time it is. And the king says, no, you got an answer? Yes. That one stands up, takes out a little box from his pocket, opens the box, and out jumps a mouse. As soon as the cat sees the mouse, drops whatever it has, and it soils all the guests' garments and everything, and runs up to the mouse. Oh, wow. So a rabbi is telling this story to a group of boys. So one of the boys goes up, Rabbi, did the cat catch the mouse? It's a good question, right? But does it fit into the point? Absolutely not.
Sorry.
All right. So we'll continue Mishram next time.
That's really what happened.